forgot to do that. Okay, so we can move on. Debbie, please, if you are here, if there's any question or something in the chat or something, kindly prompt me so I can attend to that. Okay, okay, so we can move on. Now we understand what data analytics is, but then we have types of data analytics. And the first one we'll talk about is descriptive. Descriptive. So this type of analytics aims to help you understand what has happened. By that, what do I mean? So again, we are a sales company. We place, we issue out at about 1,000 orders per day. Now, out of this 1,000 orders, on the fly, do I know the total sales in terms of money, the total value that these orders have brought? I may not know that, and so I'll sum up all the orders to get monetary value. And doing this has told me what happened. So maybe I had 1,000 CDs from all of that. And that's descriptive. So you are describing the data. You're just trying to understand what happened. And this is where descriptive analytics comes in. So you are describing what happened. And then there is diagnostic. Diagnostic, so like the word diagnosis. Why did it happen? So from the descriptive, I've understood that okay, sales for last month was 1,000 CDs. Why did it happen that it was 1,000 CDs? Probably for previous months, you're always hitting 5,000 thereabouts. But last month it was 1,000 CDs. So you need to diagnose and understand why did it happen. And that's where diagnostic analytics comes in play. Now based on this, you can decide to make decisions. You could come up with impactful insights that can help you make data driven decisions, and then you move on from there. There's another type of analytics which is known as the predictive analytics, and that's about what's likely to happen next. So that's prediction. That's prediction. So you know your data, your sales, your total sales for previous months. You know what happened in the just ended month. That was 1,000 CDs. You investigate and understand that okay, it was because of ABC that we had that amount. You are predicting for future months that with certain conditions in place, what is likely to be our total sales. So we are in March. What is likely to be our total sales for April, May, June? So that's predictive. And then prescriptive. After predicting, okay, now I have my total sales expected or likely total sales for future months. And so what do I do? What do we do about that? Do we just predict to know that okay, this may be the number? No, we predict and then we act based on that. So if you predicted and you're realizing that it's even less than 1,000 CDs, you put measures in place to not make that happen because that's not your usual income. And these are the types of analytics that we will look at. Just these. So, with all this performing data analytics, the various types of data analytics, tools are needed for this. And there are several of them. So many. So many. There's a very
Hello.
high.
Please, are you sharing a screen? Because I can't see any screen being shared.
Yeah, I'm sharing my screen now. Wow. Is this a case for everyone?
Yeah, I almost had this.
Oh,
Yes, please.
you should
Almost
have,
We can't see it.
okay.
you should have prompted me long ago. I've been sharing from the beginning. Let me do that again. Oh, that's really bad. That's really bad. Sorry about that. How did this happen? Can you see that now?
Yes, now you're feeling visible.
Okay, okay. Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible. Okay, but I hope you were able to follow. We're not lost, even though we couldn't see. So let me just do a very very quick recap of what we just done. So we just talked about what we're going to do for today, and then we understood why data matters. Understand that we generate data every day. Businesses use data to make decisions, and then it eliminates or reduces drastically guesswork. We making decisions based on intuition, what we feel, what we've been told, and all of that. And then it reveals hidden patterns. We may see some things without doing deep data analytics, but some things will only come out when you take a time to scrutinize the data. And that's why data matters. We define data. We say that okay, if data is raw fact, then analysis will mean that you are transforming this raw ingredient into something that's desirable, something that's pleasurable. And then you come up with findings, insightful conclusions, and then you can take action based on those insights. So you said that simply put, data analytics is turning raw data into useful insights with the end goal of making decisions. That's always the end goal, with the end goal of making decisions. Okay, so we talk about descriptive, what happened. I think this way we're diagnostic, and that's trying to understand why it happened. So for what happened, we had the total sales of A. Why did it happen that way? Predictive, what's likely to happen in the future months. Prescriptive, okay, based on the prediction that we just made, is there something we need to do? Or even based on diagnostic, based on what happened, what should we do about this? Now, for descriptive and diagnostic, you would have to do a description before you can even diagnose. You have to understand what happened before you now try and understand why that happened. Prediction, if that is what is desired by stakeholders, by the particular problem you are trying to solve, then you go ahead with that. Prescriptive, now for prescriptive, you can either prescribe, it's not even you can, you most often find yourself prescribing after diagnosis or after prediction. So after diagnosis, okay, this happened because ABC. We lost a lot of money because one of our shops got burned down. What do we do with that? So I don't want you to get confused and think that you always have to predict before you can prescribe. You can you understand what happened, why it happened. You can take decisions, make decisions based on that. What should we do? What shouldn't we do? Please, I hope no one is confused by this point and we are clear on this front. And then, okay, so this is where we were. This is where we were. The tools. I was saying that there are so many tools, so many tools used in data analytics. Common ones we know, how we see it. So we know of Microsoft Excel, a very, very widely used tool. We know of its sister or brother, Google Sheets. So these are spreadsheets. And then we know of SQL. So that's for database management. SQL data. You mostly find that in structured companies where we have so much data that we cannot just be moving things around in an Excel sheet. So that's where SQL will come in place. And then there's Python programming language. You can perform simple analytics with Python or even go beyond what I want to term as simple analytics. And then these visualization tools, two of them, Microsoft Power BI and then Tableau. These just help you visualize what you want to communicate. And for the tools, this is an important part I need to highlight. our setting today is very fixated on tools, very, very fixated on tools. But that can be easily misleading because the number of tools out there, you cannot catch up with them. You cannot catch up with the number of tools out there. And so if you find yourself chasing several tools, you just realize that you are now, how they even say that thing? Is it jack of all trades, master of none? Or so I think that's the expression. That you know a little bit of much, but you can actually do something in one. So it's good to upskill, to know a lot about other things. But if you are focused on tools, that will be frustrating. And so with this, I'm saying that one tool, even just one tool, and good thinking beats many tools without clarity. So you knowing how to use so many tools, but you're not really clear on doing this, or what you are doing, it's not really going to be helpful compared to someone who knows one tool and is doing good thinking. This doesn't mean that you limit yourself to one tool and stay comfortable there, because the space is a very fast paced, evolving and evolving space. Yes, that is that for the tools. Okay, so this would be, I think this is where we'll have the chunk of our discussion today, looking at the data analytics process. So we've talked about data analysis, talk about some types, but what exactly is found within this workflow? What exactly am I going to do within this workflow? So some steps involved are asking. This is not comprehensive. Some steps involved are asking questions. Asking questions. Now, there's no right, or you let's go, and then we'll take them one by one. So asking questions is a step that is involved collecting data. You can have the cleaning, the analyzing, and then communicating. And then these do not necessarily have a predefined order, where it means that you have to ask questions before you collect the data, before you clean it. They don't necessarily have a predefined order. Naturally, some have a flow where for example, collecting and cleaning. What are you cleaning if you've not collected anything? Some have a predefined flow. And then this tends to be an iterative process. So it's a cycle. You do this, you ask this question, you communicate it, you realize that okay, there's something still hazy. So maybe I need to go back to what collection of data that can help me answer it. If it needs cleaning, I do clean, analyze all the steps that go into analyzing. Keep asking the right questions, I come up with another insight. And that's the iterative nature of data analysis. So this is the process. This is the process. Hardly is it a matter of A to, you start from point A all the way to the end, point Z, and then you are done. Case closed. Hardly is that the case. And this is so because you are helping you form decisions. So when you analyze the data, come up with some insights. Are there further questions that should be asked in order to prescribe? Are there further questions that need to be asked to prescribe something else? Okay, so let's take them one by one about asking the right questions. So there's no wrong or right question. There definitely is not any wrong or right question. A good analyst is always curious and always asking questions. You have to keep asking, keep probing the data, understanding why this is this, why this is this, why this is not this. And that's how you're able to come up with insightful findings. You're able to come up with things that can actually help us make decisions that will move us forward. So for example, you are analyzing, say, sales data once again, and then you want to say, okay, like the example we gave, that why the sales drop for that particular month, why the sales drop. That is the problem that you've defined. So you ask which products. Maybe on average, on looking at things month by month, you realize that okay, for this month it was maybe furniture that dropped. So because you asked which product, you now know what the source of that drop is. What the source of that drop is. And doesn't necessarily end there that it is furniture and so full stop. Another question could be asked that okay, which time period did this happen? So I know that yes, this is March, but is it the first week? Is it the second week? Is it the is what happened? Where did the numbers really go off? Was it some number of days? And then you can keep going on and on and on. Maybe you find out that it is some 3 days within the month that were very very problematic. And then you ask, okay, what happened during those 3 days? And in asking all of these questions, that's what even helps you properly frame the problem. Asking the questions. Okay, so what problem are we solving? What do we want to know? What decisions need to be made? So this is an example question which we've looked at. And like I mentioned, this is a very iterative process. And so it's done over. You don't move from this stage and then you say, okay, I've asked all my questions. You move on to the next. It doesn't really happen like that. And then collecting data. So data can come in several sources. So we have databases. It could be a survey, like a service we see around. It could be an API. It could be spreadsheets. The point is, it can just come in several different sources in many different forms. So we just need to know that okay, data is not on one lane on the track. Is It can come in several different forms, and even how it's collected. You could have so maybe I'm a company, and then based on transactions that I make, I have that data. So that is collected by me. I may have another source where I need to go external. So maybe ask someone else for the data, look at some governmental databases here and find that data. So that's just about the sources. Was someone about to speak? I think I heard some sound. Okay, okay. I guess no one was about to speak. And then on this, your analysis, your findings are as good as the data you fed into it. And so if the data is poor, it's going to affect you. It's a garbage in, garbage out process here. If you know you are coming to cook and the ingredients are really bad, you will not you will not expect to get a nice tasting meal from that. Okay. Now cleaning data. So we've asked the right questions. We now have the data. However it was collected, we now have access to the data. Now we need to clean it. For cleaning, rarely is there the case where your data is perfectly clean. And so once you get the data, you can start analyzing. And we'll look at some samples in Microsoft Excel very soon. We'll look at that. But then rarely will you find a case where okay, I have clean data, so I can move on. In the real world scenario, data can be very, very messy. And even to talk about cleaning, there's no one fixed path to cleaning that okay, I must do A, B, C, D, and then I'm done. There's not really a fixed path to that. So these are just what you're seeing here are just examples of um common problems you find in clean data. So sometimes you need to handle missing values. So a survey was filled out. Sometimes in the service we have questions that are optional. We have those that are compulsory. So if you have the optional ones not being filled out by some respondents, then you need to deal with those missing values. And then duplicates. So you can have the same record appearing twice, and that can happen due to so many reasons. It could be a glitch, the system. It could be the person thinking that they haven't done it. They'll do it again, and then you have duplicates, and you need to deal with this. Leaving this in there is not going to give you the true. It's not going to be truly reflective of what you were expecting to collect. And then errors. So any kind of error that may be in your data. By error, it could be a spelling mistake. It could be uh, maybe a space left somewhere. So example, you are spelling the word meal, MALE. Is that how it's spelled? Yes, MALE. You are spelling the word meal. Someone might spell it by mistake, MAIL. You cannot leave that in there. Someone might also decide to use a small m, someone will use a capital M, someone will use all block letters, someone will use all small letters. And in some systems, especially when it comes to like capitalization, small letters, blocks, some systems can easily standardize everything and they just give it to you in one format. But in a tool like Excel, which you'll be looking at, it will show up and it will give you problems if you don't deal with it. And then standardized formats. One problematic, very problematic uh, field type of data to deal with is dates. Dates. Because you can have, let's say you make a mistake and then you create a survey, you leave out the date part open. You don't like set the how they call that thing, the calendar for them where they have to just touch it and say, okay, I'm selecting this year, month, and day. And then you leave it open. Someone will just type 21st March, so and so. Someone will type 21/03/2026. Some it can come in so many different formats, and if it can easily get a lot, and you have to deal with it. So that's one thing. Cleaning data and then analyzing the data. So now your data is prepared. Your data is prepared. Now I need to analyze, and this is where the real investigation begins. But even before I come here, on cleaning, many say that in this space, many say that 80% of this whole analytics process, this whole analytics workflow, is cleaning the data. 80% is cleaning the data, and I sort of do agree with that, because if you don't clean the data well, anything you do thereafter, it cannot be trusted, because what you are even feeding into the system is problematic. So you expect to find misleading insights, and we remember the end goal of analysis to make decisions. If you have misleading insights, then that's dangerous to the business. And so most you find yourself spending most of your time cleaning the data. Okay, and then analyzing the data, where the real investigation happens. So you're trying to identify patterns, compare groups. So maybe for a particular location, you realize that okay, in Accra, this product is selling a lot. In Kumasi, this one is not really selling much. So you're trying to compare and see what the numbers look like across different locations, across different age brackets, and all of that. Finding trends, testing assumptions. So maybe you want to say, okay, this may be this. I want to test and find out this whether this hypothesis will stand or not. And analyzing this is where the questions come in mainly. This is where you also have to be asking questions. So you realize that in defining the problem, what to even start from, how to even approach it, you needed to ask questions. Analyzing the data, so you're asking a lot of questions. So asking questions is all over the place. So that's for analyzing data. And then after analyzing, after sitting behind our laptops, does someone have a question? I think I heard a sound. Does someone have a question? Okay, okay. I guess that's a mistake. But once again, please feel free to interject at any point. And then, if you have a question, you have a contribution, whatever it may be, you just come in. And then, yes, I was saying communicating the insight. So you might have sat behind your laptop to do the analysis, beautifully done. You might have met as a team of analysts to work on this, get your analysis done. But does it end there? What use is the analysis if it is only going to sleep on the laptop? If it's only going to stay within the team? It needs to be communicated. Why? Once again, because the end goal of data analysis is to make decisions, data driven decisions. And so you need to communicate what you found, why those things you found happened, what should be done going forward, what is likely to happen if step A, B, C is taken or is not taken. Communicating is key here. And I must confess, this is what I consider the most problematic part for of the workflow for a lot of analysts, because uh, it's so, what is the word? It's so exciting getting the numbers, crunching the numbers, and asking the questions and testing all your hypotheses and all of that, getting your charts and visuals. It's so exciting doing that, and you can easily forget that this is being done because it needs to be communicated to make some form of decision. And so I'm sure you've heard of the term data storytelling. Have any of us ever heard of that term, data storytelling? So there's a lot going on in this space about how analysts should communicate what they found as though telling a story. So like when you're watching a movie, you will watch it because it's something that's interesting to watch. If you are reading a book, you'll be reading it because it's interesting. In the same way, communicating, you should you should communicate in a way that can be grasped well. And that's where data, there are several ways of communicating insights, but one main way is visualization. So that's where data visualization comes in. And then so you're saying that charts and graphs help make insights easier to understand. Charts and graphs help make insights easier to understand. And it's just because of how human beings are naturally set up. It's easy to look at a chart with a very one of the categories having a high bar. You can see that okay, this month is the highest, rather than looking at numbers on the table. So that's about communicating. The goal is not to make things fancy and just beautiful, it's to make them clear. Why? Because they need to be understood in order to make decisions. This is the last slide, and then we'll go to Microsoft Excel. And so the secret about data is that it's a competitive advantage. Data is all over the place, like I mentioned, what we started with. It's all over the place. However, it depends on how it's taken advantage of. That will help you or not. A company is focused on analyzing data all the time, trying to understand why, and so slowly but surely, month on month, week on week, they are solving problems, so things don't recur. Problems that occurred in the past don't recur, or things that were good, they find a way to repeat them or even make them better, rather than a company that's very comfortable where they are. So data definitely is a competitive advantage. One some reason that is unique to an organization. So nobody, if you are a company, nobody understands your transactions like you do. And so you understand your customers more. It's not, once it's unique to you, it's not available to competitors, and then you can generate insights and actions based on that. So on this, do we have any questions? Let me pause here a bit. Come back to, I believe my screen is still visible. Yes, it is. Do we have any questions for this piece? I would love if we have something to say.
Please, I have a question.
Okay.
So aside, let's say, businesses or business owners and organizations who need data to track their revenue and all that, how do I also apply like data analysis in my personal space to make my money?
Mm, okay. Very, very good question. Very, very good question. And it was even sort of touch on in the beginning. So aside businesses, organizations that will use data to make informed decisions, individuals also need data to perform, to make decisions. Especially, so I like the example you give, especially when it comes to finances. Many of us don't really know how much is coming in or going out. We if you ask right now on the fly, how much did you spend in January? It might even be hard to know that how much did you spend in November last year? How much did you get this year? Because we are simply not tracking it. But when you track that, you find that wow, there are things here. And I do track finances. I wasn't tracking it before, but then I started not too long ago. And I was finding out that okay, so this is where money is going to. This is where money should, so you can see no, money shouldn't be going. Imagine I'm tracking it every time is food, 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 food. Like there's no investment, there's no nothing else is on there. I may not know this when I'm just walking around not tracking it, but as I'm tracking, I realize that no, that I need to pay attention to this. Or maybe I look at my income for this month and I realize that yeah, I cannot be spending that much. Or realize that no, I need to get some additional job here and there to do that. So if you do not track it, you're not going to see it. So finances is a very, very good example, use case for data analytics in the lives of individuals. So tracking is, and even another example would be um maybe power consumption. Or let me even use water. Yeah, water. I don't know if it still happens, but I remember that for Ghana Water Company, they usually have agents that go around to check the various meters in homes and companies and all of that. I don't know if any of us have ever encountered something like that, but they do check that. So they are able
Yeah.
to know, yeah, they're able to know consumption. They're able to bill you based on that. Now, let's say for a particular month, you you were billed really high, like it was an unusual figure, and you don't really understand. If you don't even know your own numbers, you will not be able to even understand why that's the case. If there's some sort of mix up, you will not be able to defend yourself because you are just not abreast on the numbers. Same for power consumption. You buy you buy let's say you're someone on average who uses 100 cds in a month, and then for some strange reason in one week that same 100 cds is gone. You will have questions. Let's say you did not know that your monthly average is 100. You just won't be bothered. But had you known that my monthly average is 100, monthly average is 100 cds, and then for some strange reason in a particular week that 100 is gone, you investigate, and then you ask questions only to find out that okay, there is a problem with your meter. It's checked for you and it's resolved. And so data is all over the place and needs to be checked even in the lives of individuals, not just businesses. And those are just a few examples of how data plays in. There are countless data usage, as in data as in what's it called, mobile data. Yes, all of that. So that's that. uh,
Okay.
welcome. Any other question? I think there's some feedback. There's some feedback coming in. Okay, so I guess that's all. No other question. Can move on. Okay, let's do that. Let's move on to, let's start something in Excel. So we've talked a lot. We've talked a lot. Now let's do something here in Excel. Is it even possible to, let me check. Think that in the chat. Okay, Google Meet doesn't allow that. That's fine. That's fine. I wanted to share the file so those who want to. Wait, does Google Meet
Can
allow
you
that?
share it on the WhatsApp group, please?
WhatsApp group. Uh, WhatsApp group. WhatsApp group. Let me see how I can get this done quickly. Mm, wait, which WhatsApp group?
The main PixarData WhatsApp group.
Okay. Okay, please give me a moment. Okay, let me do that quickly. Let me share this in the WhatsApp group. Let me pause. Okay, so I've shared the file. This is the file I've shared. Let me just use, I just shared it, so let me just wait a minute, probably for those who want to download it. And use. So while that's done, so this is data on, well, it's on music. So some particular albums, artists on that album, what genre of music that is, whether it is rock or pop or jazz, blues, any other genre that is here, the subgenre, and then sales from that particular collection in that year, the sales that it has made. So that's the data that we are looking at. This is what we are going to be looking at. So yeah, I think I can go ahead now. So this is the data we have. As a business owner, how exactly can this data help you? Can anyone attempt that? That, like I said, there's no right or wrong answer. We're just exploring how there will be a need to even analyze this kind of data. Okay, so maybe you are also in the music industry, you're a business that's in the music industry, whether it's producing or whatever it is. And then you find out that a particular genre of music does so well. You might attempt to go into that, see whether you can produce more of that, if that reflects in sales. But without knowing which genre that is, you cannot even make decisions. So I mean, that's just something that you can try to answer with your data. So let's go ahead now. Just glancing, let me zoom in a little bit. Just glancing at the data, I'm sure we've already spotted that there are some errors. Some things are looking really fishy here, like this. How is this the case? How is this the case? How is the case? You realize that there's so much income. Why is this starting from here? There's a lot of inconsistency going on here. In this field, too, we have everything being lowercase. Okay, everything's lowercase here. But in the artist field, we see that there are problems here. Is there same in genre? Is there same in subgenre? Total sales. Now, some some just like this one of these errors are easily to spot, like we've just done. So easy to spot, but it may not be the case in large data sets. In large data sets. Now, even on AI is has advanced to the point that is able to even catch these errors before they are fed into your data. So this was collected. It wasn't. It was collected before it even became data that we can analyze. Now you can employ some validation techniques to make sure that that doesn't happen. And AI can also be introduced here. Even even after this, AI can also be used to to clean. There are, however, some pitfalls. I've seen AI being used to clean. There are some pitfalls because it's still a growing space. So clearly, we know we need to clean this field. How can we clean this? Now, even before I clean, I'm going to convert this to a table. The reason why I'm converting, okay, I've used the term. Let me see why I'm saying table. So you might be wondering, this already looks like a table. So what do I even come to convert this to a table? Because we know a table to be columns and rows, right? So we have our columns, and then we have our rows. So we have the year column, album artist, genre, subgenre, total sales, and then we have our rows there. But Excel doesn't work with that definition. Excel doesn't work with that definition. It doesn't recognize this as a table. So to Excel, this is not a table. What it will call this is a range. So your data is from cell A1, the cell where year is, down all the way to where does the data end? Okay, there's something here, but let me just ignore that. 504. So F504. So Excel is just going to understand this as your range, and it contains data. That's all. But I'm going to convert it to a table. Reason being, I can do so much with it being a table. So I'm going to convert it to a table. And how you can do that is to either select all. So I can do a control A. I'm doing a control A safely because let me give you an insider tip. Doing the control A selected everything all the way to row 504. That may not be the case. If 498 was empty like this, maybe these two rows were empty, you realize that it's not going to select all because it won't know whether it's the same thing. So we'll cut off here. So I can do a control A. Another way is to select manually. That's one way. This can be done in seconds because the data is large, but when the data is not, you will feel it. And then you can do a control T. Control T automatically selects it and recognize that you want to have a table. Okay, so this is just a table. I don't want to dwell too much on how to the technicalities of a table. So just convert this to a table. Excel automatically applies this formatting. I'm just going to leave it as that, this formatting to this. Now we have a table. This is what Excel calls a table. And then you realize that a tab popped up here. It's saying table design tab at the top. This is the center of the screen, top center here. Table design tab. And then it has given us several different tools that we can use to interact with the table. There's a table name here. I can decide to name the table music. Okay, so on the field we want to work on, let's say, let's say this artist. Let's decide to work on artist. Just this. We need to make sure that this is
Hello.
consistent. Yes, hello.
So realize that before you converted this to a table, you showed us three ways. Either we select all or we
Yes,
press Control A.
Yes.
Then you press or you use Control T. But when you use Control, you select all. How do you convert it to table? When
You can
you
still
just
use.
highlight, yeah,
Okay, so let me undo this. So when you select all, you can still do a control T. So you can control T is going to recognize that okay, you wanted to select all. That's why I went straight to control T. But I mean, you're right. You can say you select first, and then you can do a control T. But that's a shortcut. That's actually where that tool is placed. So when you select all, you can go to the insert ribbon here, and then in the okay, and then you see table here. You just click on table, and then there's the same thing. So the corner was the lungus I was taking you through is uh, just a shortcut. I hope it's cool.
yes, yes.
Okay, so let me name my table again. And then let's deal with artist column. We need to deal with these inconsistencies. The Beatles and the Beach Boys and the spaces, the capitalization, all of the weird stuff. So I can use more than one method to handle this. I could use one that we are not going to touch. There is a built-in tool known as the Power Query Editor that helps you do so much with your data in very simple, fast ways. But we are not going to do that because we can't just jump into that. And then you can use functions. So in Excel, we know that most of the time when we hear Excel, we know that there are formulas, the sum and the all of that. We can use functions to do that. So what I'm going to do is to create a column after artist, the one I want to deal with. After the artist column, I'm going to let me name this. Uh, okay, I'll name it after what we do, so we know why I'm naming it that way. And so we want to deal with the spaces, these weird spaces in between. So I can use a trim. There's a function for that known as the trim. And it's going to deal with all those spaces. So when I say equal to trim, what am I trying to trim? I select this and then enter. Now it takes away all those spaces. So you realize that first we had the really big space between beach and boys. It's no more the case. The one before the there for the Beatles is no longer the case. Rolling Stones. So trim handles that. But that's not all. You also need to deal with capitalization. Now, to do this, there are several ways you can do this, but I'm just going to use one approach. So I don't want you to think that this is just the way and it should be done that way. That's not going to happen. I'm going to copy this. Now, this is a formula. What is here is a formula. When you change the source, it's going to change. So when I change this, I deleted here, and you see that now column 1 is no longer there. It changes that. In order to avoid that, I'm going to copy this. Let me go back to this. I'm going to copy what I just cleaned, column D, what I just trimmed. And then I'm going to paste it back here, paste it back here, but as values. Now I'm pasting it back as values because I don't want it to be connected to a formula. Okay, and then we've trimmed. Now we are going to standardize the casing. We don't want capitalization differences. So let's use proper. Proper is going to capitalize the first letter of each word. So proper, and then I'll do this, and then enter. Now you see boys is consistent, Beatles everything is consistent. The same thing. This is now a formula. So I'm going to copy this. Just select all, Control C, and then I'll paste it back here, and then I'll say paste as values. Now I can decide to delete this one where I was doing the clean, and I have a clean artist column. Now I have a clean artist column. Okay. Now there are several other things you can do with clean, but let's hold on this. And then I want us to look at how we can probably make some visualizations from this data. So you can have your, maybe you want to find the total sales per artist, per album, per genre. You can also use a function for that, but I'm not going to do that for this. Is there a question in there? Okay. So what I'm going to use is what's known as a pivot table. A pivot table. So I'm going to just, while any cell within the table is active, by active I mean selected, I can just select any cell within the table. Once it's in the table, I'm good. I go to insert ribbon, I see pivot table, and then click on it. Now it's asking me where do I want to place on a new worksheet. Yes, that's what I want. So I'll just say okay. It creates a new sheet, and then this strange looking table appears. Now I want to look at total sales with this field list here on the right hand side. I want to look at total sales, and so I drag total sales. You can see that there are four sections here. There's filters, rows, columns, values. I can drag total sales to values, and then I want to look at these values grouped by maybe, what did we just clean? Artist. Let's use what we just cleaned by artist. So now for each artist, I have the value there. This is a lot. Let's say we want top 10. So I just want to get the top 10 and leave out that. So let's deal with just the top 10. And I have this. Instantly, I have a table that is giving me the top 10 artists and their corresponding sales. So the numbers are looking funny. So let me comma separate them. So I just go to home, comma separate. I don't want any decimals. So we see what's looking like. So top 10. Okay, this is not sorted, but this is the top 10. Let me sort this. No, I'll include the grand total. Let me just sort this. So home. Let's do largest to smallest. Okay, then we have this sorted. So we know how things are looking now. So this is just an example of what you can do with the pivot table. We can decide to visualize this, because even though we've from this, so you see that from this broad data, which we couldn't see what we just saw, we'll be able to narrow it down to this. Now we have some insights. This still, we can do better, and so we'll try to visualize this. I can go to either insert and say chart, recommended chart, choose any of them, or since it's a pivot table, it allows me to the recording thing is preventing me from selecting this. I can go to the pivot table analyze ribbon and just select a pivot chart. Maybe I want a bar chart. Okay, and I'm good. So now I'm able to easily see this at a glance. I want it to not be increasing while it's going out. What I want the highest to be at the top. So I'm just going to sort this in the reverse order so I get that. And now instantly I don't have to look at so many numbers to know what is going on. I just look at this and instantly I know that okay, Bob Dylan, across this time span that we're looking at this data set, Bob Dylan is on top. I hope we are good up to this point. So like I mentioned at the beginning of our session, this is not to magically mislead you into thinking that you can have everything covered in Excel in just a couple of minutes, a couple of hours. It's just to open you up to what data analysis is. That's why we spent a lot of time on that. Is to open you up to what the need for data analysis is, why it matters, why it should be looked into. And then we are just having this hands-on session to know the possibilities, what we can do, what we can see with data. We can also do a similar thing in Power BI. Not even a similar, the same thing. So let me go to Power BI. So Power BI is recognized as a visualization tool, also by Microsoft. a visualization tool. It helps you visualize data, but it doesn't just you can also clean in there. You can clean, you can make your transformations and all of that. So let's look into this. I think there's some feedback. There's some feedback coming in from somewhere. Is there a question? Okay, I think it's better now. So I'm going to import. Was I a CSV or okay? Let me just check. I'm going to import the file I just shared, cleaning, in here. So I need to bring in that data into Power BI. For Excel, the data was already in Excel, so I was moving in there straight ahead. But now I want to bring. I'm working with a different tool, so I need to bring in that data. Power BI allows us to connect to multiple data sources. One can be Excel spreadsheet. It can be some SQL database, several sources. So when I go to get data, I see that all these sources are available and even more. So I think that was an Excel workbook. So let me check if, yeah, it's an Excel workbook. So I'll just select it. A dialog box pops up for me to know what is in there. So do I want to bring in data? Do I want to bring in, let me see if I've saved the clean. Let me save the clean one. Yes, let me save the clean one. So when I bring it in there, it will be clean. Clean and open. So I'm going to bring in, so what we are seeing here is just the content within this Excel file. So you know the Excel file for this particular Excel file is actually a workbook. And a workbook can have many sheets and tables and all of that. So this is just saying that we have a music table. You see what I was saying, that Excel recognizes things differently. So I named it the table music. The sheet name was data. Let me go back to Excel. This is the sheet name. Down here, data. There's also a sheet one. And so you realize that it is clearly showing here that these are sheets and then this is a table. The table is the one that is cleaned. So I'm going to bring in that. I'm just going to select it and load here. I could have transformed, which will lead me to, I mentioned this Power Query Editor. I said that this is a built-in tool in the Microsoft Excel that helps you play with your data in a faster, fun way. Power BI also has that. Excel, Power BI are siblings. So I'm going to bring in this data. I don't need to make any transformation. We don't want to get into that tool. So I just load the data, take some few seconds. It's saying that there are changes being applied, 503 rows. Okay. And now I have this. The interface of Power BI is very similar to Excel, as we've already observed. We have our ribbons, we have the various tools within the groups here. So what I want us to look here is what's different. The right hand side, where the mouse pointer is. We have the data pane here. Whereas I will be just loaded this here, music is here. And then I can click on the drop down arrow and this shows the various fields or columns, the various column titles. Sorry, the various column titles for what's in this file. And then, sorry, please give me a moment. Okay. And then we have the visualizations pane. Given that Power BI is described as a visualization tool, you'd expect that it has so many avenues for you to visualize your data. And we do have that here. So we have so many visuals here. Now, what we did in Excel was a bar chart. So I'm going to just do exactly that. So I'm going to select one of this, which is called a clustered bar chart. I'm just going to, so now I have my working area here. We see a chart just appeared. I'm going to just drag this box to make it a little bit bigger. What did I plot? It was total sales. On which axis? Let me go back to the sheet. Our total sales was on the horizontal axis here. So I'm just going to go here, drag this where is total sales to horizontal axis, and then artist, the one we cleaned, was on the y-axis. And I have this. Now I narrow down to top 10, right? So I'm going to do the same here. I'm just going to come to filters. This is another pane here that pops up, filters. I'm going to select the type of filtering I want to. Top, was it 5 or 10? I think it was 10. By what value, total sales, apply it, and then I have this. So the same chart I had in Excel, I have that here. And this is in its raw format. The same way that's in Excel. You can do way much more to be able to make it look more presentable, because this in this state, you realize that it's quite hard to visualize. Like the numbers are small, you can't really see the text here. We can do better. But this to let you know what the possibilities are. And again, on why visualization is a common approach, the preferred approach when it comes to communicating insights, is how human beings naturally take in information. So it's like a dashboard, a vehicle, even in the vehicles, the vehicle dashboard. Imagine driving a car and you are seeing the whole manual on your what is called, what we call a dashboard is not actually the dashboard, but you are seeing the whole manual at the front, everything. You are seeing the engine, all the technicalities. You are seeing, for the information is just way too much, and you might not even consume anything due to the volume of information that's or data that's being given to you. And so some are handpicked. As you realize that on the vehicle dashboard we have fuel, because you need to see if you make it or you have to walk along the way. You have your speed. Are you under limit, over limit? Are you cool? We have temperature. Are you at the risk of overheating? You'd want to know that. Mileage, especially when it comes to sale of cars, you need to know the mileage. So, and that's why we have a dashboard. It's easy to grasp. We don't have text and spreadsheets and all of that sitting there, because it's grasp. And that's why visualization is a preferred method for communicating insights. And we saw that right here. When we had, let me go back to Excel. When we had a table, we had all these numbers. It wasn't so easy to grasp what was going on. But when we converted it to a chart, immediately we know that Bob Dylan is at the top. And that's that. And even with AI in Excel, and this will be the last thing, even in AI with Excel and Power BI, so we're around Excel. So all of us know about Chat GPT. Now there are even opportunities to add in some plugins, some extensions to Excel to help you. So we can come here and say add-ins, and the home ribbon add-ins. I can go to, there are some recommended ones here, suggested ones. I go to more add-ins, and then you see something amazing here. They are even grouped into categories, and then you can come to data analytics, select it, and look at what's available. And many of this involves playing around. And then we have Chat GPT. I could add this. Now the way we are able to interact with Chat GPT, on whether it's through the app on our phones, whether we go to the website or the web page, and then we interact there. When we bring it here, now we wouldn't need to be going back and forth. So I mean, it just allows for that flexibility where we not need to be going back and forth. We can ask questions in our data easily, quickly, and all of that. And we have a similar thing in Power BI. There's even prep. We know about Copilot. There's even same prep data for AI. So we know, many of us. What did I click? Many of us know about Copilot, but I cannot handle this right now. I need to sign in. But yes, there is the avenue for that, and that's how AI has played into data analytics right now. And the reason why data AI plays into data analysis this way is the primary purpose for why it was built. AI is supposed to come and augment our work. It's supposed to make us more productive. It's supposed to help us do things faster, quicker. And so if I'm able to just imagine if I'm able to have chat GPT in Microsoft Excel, that's very good rather than having to be toggling through. Maybe I have to download the data, go to chat GPT, upload, and then deal with it, get the findings before I come back to Excel, all that back and forth. So this just helps me do things quicker. And with to end with this, I'm just going to show a dashboard. And this is something that you can decide to do with Excel. So for this, we had some sales. I think this was sales. Yes, sales data. So orders, various orders, where they were sent out to, how much, all of that. You make your analysis. Now it's time to communicate. I spoke about dashboard. You might want to look at some key metrics. That okay, what was the total sales? So from that large data set, I think this is this is the data set. From this large data set, I cannot make all of that out. So I come to the dashboard. I see that okay, total sales is this. How many units in terms of the order quantity? Instantly I know. Shipping charges. Instantly I know. Number of locations served I know. So which locations is our company attending to? Where do we have markets in? Average rating, I know this. And you can answer key questions just at a glance. And a dashboard, just like many other things, data analytics, there's no one way formula that okay, every time put total this here, put that there, put that here. It's all based on where do we start from, asking the right questions. Not even asking the right questions, asking questions, asking a lot of questions. So in asking that, you've defined your problem. Now, what visuals, what insights are most relevant to the problem that we defined? Those will be well fitted on the dashboard. So we have just some, we have the brother of a pie chart. We all know a pie chart. This is just the brother of the pie chart. It's called the donut chart. We have some bar charts here showing us what the total sales are per location. So instantly we know that San Francisco is in the middle, second with this amount. We see shipping charges. We know that okay, so let's look at this. Sydney is so and so amount. Shipping charges is also that high. One question you could ask is is it that shipping charges for this place are very expensive, like highly expensive, or it's just because there were a lot of orders to this place that this the shipping charges are also high? So that's something you can investigate. And then we have some trend to understand what's going on. So we know that okay, the lowest is this. Okay, November. But this is in terms of average. So we have the total sales as the bars. How about average? Then we have our trend. So we know that okay, January was at the top of the but average is low here. So it may be that January had so many low value orders, so many of them. That's why even though the average was low, we had this high number. Okay, and then we have was well, these are filters. They are called slices in Excel, but these are filters. So maybe I want to just look at clothing as a product category. What do I want to see? Okay, I click on clothing, and everything changes to show me just clothing. So when I go to ornaments, I see that okay, this is what's happening. And you can decide to change what you want to change. And you can just play around with your data. And this is aimed at delivering key insights based on how do you determine what's key. What is your problem that has been defined? What are you trying to solve? What questions were asked? What did you find? What is going to help us make better decisions? Because remember, the end goal of data analysis is to make data driven decisions, informed decisions so that we can do better. And that's our competitive advantage. At this point, do we have any questions? I can see, please. I can. Okay, this was before when you couldn't see my screen. That's cool. Okay, do we have any questions at this point? What are thoughts? Any questions or any contribution, any concern, anything that you think should be addressed? I heard a sound. Is there a hand or something? Let me go there. Okay, Eric. Eric, please, you can go ahead.
All right, thank you very much. I wanted to find out if one decides to go into data analytics, just as you've taught today, would you advise you shown us two tools, the Excel and the Power BI. Would you advise that one probably learns the Excel first and moves to Power BI, or one can do any of both or any of the sorts? If you could clarify that for me.
Okay, okay. So on tools, if you are first of all, if you are looking about tools in general, it may not be like a straightforward answer that do this tool before this tool, this tool, this tool, because you may find yourself in a setting where the tool you need to use is SPSS, it is this, it is this, it is that. So that's that one. But if you are comparing the two, Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Power BI, personal take would be to start with Excel. To start with Excel. Why? One, Excel is simpler. Excel can make you do much more in a simpler way. If, for example, I think there was a formula where we did some. You can even, when it comes to even financial stuff, you can have your formulas. You can use functions to get what you're looking for. You can do same in Power BI, but you are going to employ a different route. You are going to use. It also has its language where you be using some functions and all that, and it's called DAX. It's not as simple as we have it in Excel. In addition to that, Excel is more widely used compared to Power BI. That's just the reality. Excel is more widely used. So you find yourself to be using Excel more than in Power BI. Power BI is a visualization tool, but that's not the only visualization tool. It may be that you may find yourself in a setting where Power BI is their secondary tool. Maybe they have some other tool, visualization tool that they use more often. But all of them will still start from Excel, will most likely start from Excel. And so, in order to have a smoother transition, I would personally recommend that you start with Excel. Excel is much, much more powerful than we actually do. So I would recommend that we start with Excel and not overload ourselves. Like I mentioned, tools can easily get you overloaded, but that doesn't have to be so. So yeah, I hope that's answered.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Is any other question or contribution concern before we bring our session to an end? So I leave you to go enjoy your Saturday instead of boring you with jargons.
Hello.
Yes, hello.
Sorry, I'll take you back a little.
No problem.
The Excel sheet. I am trying to clean the artist's name, the format. I'm trying to do what you taught us. But the moment I use the proper formula, what it returns is zero. I keep getting zero and I don't know why. So can you assist? help?
Is it possible to share a screen?